I was on mute. Jeez. Okay. Thank you for the heads up. So I'm going to do that again. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining another live. My name is Boosie, and today we're going to be talking about the challenges that a lot of you have shared you are facing with immigrating to Canada, if that's something that's a goal of yours or a dream. And I put up a poll about 2 weeks ago, and we're going to be talking through that poll and just getting to find solutions that could possibly help you realize your goal of moving to Canada. But yeah, that was such a rookie mistake on my behalf. Like, if you work in corporate, I've done this a lot of times where I'll be on double mute and I speak, and people are like, we can't hear you. Yeah, so let me know where you're watching from. That's one of the things I said while I was still on mute. Like, just let me know where you're watching from, and then we will take things from there. Madeline here from Pretoria. Hello. Marks. Hello, Marks. I'm so excited to be having a chat with you guys, and I haven't been live in a minute. And it was such an entrance with the with the mute. And Tammy says he is watching. Deborah is watching from Cape Town in South Africa. Hi, Deborah. Tammy says he's watching from the couch. My couch. Hi, Tammy. Joshua is watching from Pretoria. Hello. Okay, I think we can get things started. So I just want to share my screen quickly. Ellison is watching from East London. Thank you for joining, and I hope we will have a very interactive session. I want to chat. I want us to talk through all of the things that have been shared, and hopefully get you to have a clearer picture, of the next step that you need to take or the next thing that you need to do to move yourself forward. Seeing everyone mentioning where they're coming from. Hello and welcome, and let us chat. So, challenges immigrating to Canada. Let me just make this a presentation. Right, so as I mentioned, a few weeks ago, I put up a poll where I just asked, okay, what are some of the challenges so I can get an understanding of things that I could potentially share that could help you if it's something that, I know I could help you in some way. And some of you had motivation to start the process as being one of the things that's a challenge for you, understanding the process, the fear of the unknown. Proof of funds was a big one. Proof of funds was a big one, and I can understand because it's a very, very large amount that is required in some of these programs for you to be able to immigrate. And then one of the things that I had also said that if there's something I didn't mention, please mention it in the comment section. I went through the comments, and the two biggest ones I saw was age and jobs. So on the job side of things, I want to touch on the jobs just to start things off. If looking or finding a job, that's one of the things you want to do. Find a job and then immigrate after you have that job, or relocate after having the job. Definitely, it's not going to be something that is necessarily easy, I'd say. It's definitely not undoable, though. It's not something that's impossible. It's definitely possible. There's a lot of people who looked for jobs and then found the jobs and then moved. So I would encourage that you brush up your resume, you brush up your online professional presence. If you have a LinkedIn profile, make sure you're using that profile to your advantage. Make sure it's optimized. Make sure you've updated it with your most current skills, your most current experience, and it's easy for recruiters who are looking for someone of your caliber to find you. And if you're looking for jobs as well, if you have a profile that is really an all-star profile on LinkedIn, that can help you find a job much easier. From my own personal experience, LinkedIn was that number one tool that worked for me. I've worked for 3 different companies since I started working in Canada. I've been in 3 different companies, and all 3 of them, I found those jobs through LinkedIn. And for my husband, he used Indeed. We both used both platforms, but for some reason, LinkedIn worked out much better for me, and Indeed worked out much better for him because I never really got to get interviews or anything through the Indeed platform, but I got the jobs through LinkedIn. So use those two platforms and other platforms you might be aware of. Maybe somebody else mentions a platform. It doesn't hurt to give that a try. But looking for a job, as if you're someone who has found a job, it can be a job in itself. So just be prepared that it might take some time of you going through those interview processes, putting in applications, not hearing anything back. So I would just encourage that you keep looking for a job if that's your plan and what you want to do moving through a job. And then from an age perspective, what I noticed with the comments and some of the DMs that I received, it's on two sides. So the one side is I feel like I'm too old and I lose a lot of points with the express entry point system. I lose points because of my age and I just don't know what to do. And on that front as well, there are still opportunities. There's an opportunity, even if with the express entry you lose some points. Age is not the only thing that they look for, right? They look at your skills, they look at your work experience, they look at your education. There's a whole lot of things that they look for before they say, yes, you can come, or no, your points are enough or not enough. So don't just look at the age portion of it, even if you keep hearing maybe other people say, I think I'm too old and it's really giving me lower points. Just go and check for yourself how your points rank, and you might find that you still have enough points and you get enough points from all the other things that it can help you move forward. And when you look at the English test as well, it's very, very important that you aim to get as high of a mark as you possibly can for each component, because that also helps to boost your points, right? And then on the age portion as well, if you can find a job first, so if you see that, okay, from a point system, you're not really finding anything that's making sense, finding a job might be one of your other options. So invest a lot of time in looking for that job and then take things from there. So just going through the comments section, I see everyone. Okay, I don't see any questions specifically about the age or the jobs portion of things. So I'm going to move forward. Now, 6% of people who responded to the poll said the motivation to start the process was one of the challenges, their biggest challenges, just being motivated to start the process. And to those people, I just want to ask, do you know your why? And I don't mean why at a very high level of you saying, oh, maybe I would just like to experience living somewhere else. That's fine, but go a bit deeper. Like, why have you even considered wanting to move? And once you can get clear on that why, that is going to push you to actually go through the process and do the things that you need to do to get yourself to a point where you're immigrating. But if it's just something that, you're kind of just looking at in passing and you're like, it would be nice if I would do it, but it's not a train smash if I don't, things are okay where I am. Yes, of course, motivation is going to be a very big one. But if you have a very big push and a big reason and a big why you want to go, that is something that is going to push you on its own. So I would strongly encourage that anyone who said motivation of starting the process is their biggest challenge, to just dig a little deeper to find out if immigrating is actually something that you even really want to do. And you can stop wasting your energy if you figure out that actually I'm okay with where I am and it's okay to be fine with where you are. But you'll stop wasting your energy and your time investing your thoughts in thinking, I want to immigrate, when you actually don't really want to do it. So that's what I would encourage you do on that front. And then from an understanding the process perspective, 17% of people said the biggest challenge is understanding the process. And I will always say that the Canada.ca website is the #1 place that you will find information about all new programs that come up, all the already existing programs that are available, what their requirements are, what you need to do to be eligible for them. And I will just also say as a disclaimer, I'm not an immigration consultant. I share information based on my personal experience having moved to Canada with my family, as well as the information that I read and I get to see online and then I reshare with you. So Canada.ca, that is your #1 place where you'll be able to figure out what programs are available, what are their eligibility criteria, and then you know your situation best and you know whether you are eligible for a program or not, and then look at their requirements and what they say the process is. But what I also did was create a frequently asked questions page on my website. So if you go to busi.global/FAQ for frequently asked questions, you'll find a list of questions that can help you maneuver my YouTube channel quite a bit, because I've had people be like, okay, I do see you have a lot of videos about a number of things, but I'm confused in terms of where exactly do I start with all of this. So that can really help you if you are confused about the process and want to understand that process. But the Canada website, which is by the government and will give you the most accurate, most up-to-date information, is that one place that I would say make your best friend. Make that website your best friend, and you will uncover so many things on there that will help you along the way. Okay, so Joshua says 23 M. Okay, I'll assume you're saying you're a 23-year-old male. Looking at the provincial nominee for Saskatchewan using the occupancy in demand, however, is the process more or less difficult than express entry? I honestly have no idea, because I didn't come through that through the provincial nominee program. I wouldn't know if the process is more difficult or less difficult. What I would encourage maybe that you could do is join the BUCG fam. If you're not aware, there's a community of people on a Mighty Networks group called the BUCG fam. And I created that group just to bring people together who are going through the process and have gone through different processes, because myself, I've gone through the express entry for federal skilled workers, right? That's the one that I can give a bit more information on. But other programs, really, what I would know is what I see on the government's website. So what I would be able to share is something I've read, something I've heard from somebody else. But maybe if you could ask this question in that group and phrase it in a way where you're asking someone who's gone through the provincial nominee program, maybe specifically for Saskatchewan, someone might say, hey, I went through that program and this has been my experience. I'm not sure if you'd be able to find someone who can say, going through this program and going through that program, this one is more difficult. And they're speaking from the point of view of having gone through that program themselves. I'm not entirely sure if you would be able to find someone who has that kind of experience, but you could potentially find someone who's gone through the program, who can give you their 2 cents on their own personal experience, and then you compare it to other things that you've heard about other programs. So that's what I would encourage that you do there. But you also don't have to just look at the BUCG fam group. Find other groups, maybe find other forums to pose the question on how that process has been for somebody else on the internet somewhere who would be willing to share, right? And then compare things going from there. Okay, Sarika says, hi, Busi. I have a bachelor's degree as well as a postgraduate certificate. Should I send both to WES for evaluation or only my degree certificate? Does WES evaluate certificates?
No, it's only degrees.
Only degrees, yeah. Okay, so
at least from what I know.
So when I look to the side and ask a question, I'm asking my husband because he's sitting right here for things that I'm not entirely sure of. But WES only evaluates degrees. So they would not evaluate a certificate. So if it's so your degree, definitely get that evaluated through WES, but the certificate, they don't evaluate degrees. And I would also just encourage to go to the WES website, and then have a look at what they specify that they evaluate, but they evaluate degrees and not certificates. Okay, so Pindile says, hi, Busi, regarding the proof of funds, do they require bank statements for both parties or just the primary applicant? There, I would say only the primary applicant. Like if you have the funds in the other person's account who would be going, I don't see why you can't submit both of those as proof of funds, both bank statements. If you can just have it in the primary person's account, I think that would be fine. But they just want to see that it's an account that you would have access to and funds that you would have access to. So even if it's in somebody else's account that you'd be coming with, that would be fine as well. Okay, so Let's move on to the next one. 27% of people who responded to the poll said they have fear of the unknown. And you see, I put the same picture on there because it just covers everything that I think you would need to really think about. Why and when and what's making you want to leave? Like, have you uncovered all of these questions for yourself? Really delved into why you want to move, and then look at the pros and the cons of what would happen, or what do I think is going to be the outcome if I stay where I am, versus what are the pros and the cons for if I would leave. Because there's going to be pros and cons to both, right? If you choose to stay where you are, there's positives and there's negatives. And if you choose to leave and go somewhere else, there's going to be positives and negatives. Weigh what those are, and then from there you can decide, okay, what is the best way that I think I can move forward and it would make the most sense for me. Because if you move but you're looking at your pros and your pros are saying it's better for you to just stay where you are than move, then it's going to be very difficult for you to even start that process. But if you've weighed your pros and your cons and you see that, okay, I see more pros in me leaving, as much as there are going to be cons or negative things that happen, but I see more pros, and so I'm willing to take that risk. Because there's a risk in every single thing that we do in life. There's a risk. There's just certain things that we don't really look at as risks, right? But moving to another country looks like this super big thing, and it is. It's a very big move and a big decision, and it's not to be taken lightly. It shouldn't be something that's taken lightly. But any single time you choose, for example, to leave your house, you're taking a risk. Anything could happen to you on the streets. Getting out of your bed in the morning, when you put your feet on the ground and you try to get up, you could step in a very, wrong way. You lose your balance, you fall, and your ankle maybe is broken. It's a risk, but you do it because you've done it so many times. It's not something you really perceive as a risk. So there's risks in every single thing that we do, and immigrating is no different. There's a lot of risks, but you just have to look at pros, cons of staying, pros, cons of leaving, weigh those two for yourself, and then you decide, okay, what makes the most sense for me, and am I gonna, what do I think is gonna benefit me more? And then you make your decision from there. So let me just go to the comments really quickly. So Joshua is asking the IELTS test, what type of questions is asked and how would a home language English speaker do? So they have 4 different types of tests, right, with the English test. So you're going to do a writing test, you're going to do a listening test, you're going to do a speaking test, and you're going to do a, what did I not count now? You write, you listen, you speak, and you, what's the 4th one? Oh, and you read. Yes, the 4th one is the reading test. Just because English is your first language, it's your home language, don't take the test lightly and think, oh, I don't have to maybe prepare for it. What I would suggest you do is find YouTube videos, find different YouTube videos. And there's also other resources that people in the BCG fam, the Mighty Networks group, there's resources people have shared in there that they're using and they're finding helpful. So those could be things that you explore as well. When we were moving and we were doing the English test, we used a variety of YouTube videos. We watched YouTube videos for all of the components, and that helped us understand the format of the exam. So for example, if you're doing the speaking test, it's not like they probably have a list of questions, but they're more trying to see if you can have a conversation, a flowing conversation with someone. So they may ask your name, they may ask, okay, what is one of your most favorite things to do during the weekend, right? It's not really questions that you have to go study and cram, and you're like, okay, they're going to ask this and I have to answer in this way. And then they could ask, okay, what is, who do you like going to that particular place, if you mention a place that you'd like to go. And with the speaking test, I always say, try and keep it conversational. So if a person is asking you a question and they say, okay, what is one of the most favorite things you like to do during the weekend? Don't just say, I like going to the park, and then you keep quiet, because they're trying to test whether you can speak the language, right? So unless the question that they asked really is a one answer question, like what is your name, you can't speak for 2 paragraphs on what your name is. But if it's something like, what do you like to do during the weekend? You can say, I like going to the park, I go with my family, or I go with my boyfriend or my husband or my wife, and we like taking a picnic basket, elaborate as much as you can and as much as makes sense for questions. And then with the English, with the other tests, reading, writing, listening, they give you they'll give you a sheet that you have to go through, and if you're listening, there'll be things that you have to fill in while you're listening to audio play. So even there, like practicing with the YouTube videos, just to listen and practice active listening, and also how you're going to time yourself when you're going through the test. I think that's very important. So I'd say the biggest thing would be to practice. Even if English is your home language, just make sure that you are practicing with everything. And then Joshua says, I think the unknown is the best part of the journey. Honestly, it's the most exciting, right? I agree. You have no idea what's going to be on the other side, but you're also very hopeful, and you have done enough on your end to try and put yourself in a good and decent position, right? Yeah. And Sarik is asking, at what stage do I apply for my police clearance and how long is it valid for? It depends on the country. In South Africa, when we applied, it was valid for 3 months, but I think now it's changed to 6 months. So I would encourage that you check on the website, or you ask the police station, nearest police station to you, how much is it going to cost, and how long is it valid for? I think it's 6 months now, but don't quote me. I think it's 6 months, but just check. And the police clearance, it would make sense to apply for it really close to when you're going to need it, just depending on that validity period. So if it's still going to be maybe, I don't know, 6 months before you need it, it's definitely not one of the first things that you start off with doing, because you might have to go get another one if the time lapses and it expires. Tammy, in IELTS, they ask basic questions to determine your level of speaking, reading, writing, and listening. There's various videos. Yeah, definitely on YouTube and other resources that you can check out. I totally agree. Okay, so I'm gonna move to the next slide. And the biggest thing that a lot of people shared was a problem was the proof of funds, right? Proof of funds, it's a lot of money that is required for you to have, and a lot of people expressed that this was their biggest challenge. And one of the things that I just want to share with that is that for a lot of people, for some people, just, saving from your 9 to 5 might not be enough. So you might have to find other streams of income to be able to save a lot more. And you might also have to make it a more long-term plan. So you might feel like, I'm ready to leave like right now, today, but then the funds are not there. So I would encourage that you look for jobs. Number one, that might be a faster way for you to be able to move. And then while you're looking for those jobs, try and find ways of making more money. You have skills, you have experience, there's things that you can do or you can help people with that they could potentially pay you for, Start that business if you've had an idea of doing something, try it out and weigh the risks as well of trying that out. Don't put a lot of your money into it and then end up losing money that you could have been using for the process. But the reality of it is that a lot of people will have to find other means to make extra income. For myself and my husband, we did not just rely on our 9 to 5. We did not just rely on our 9 to 5. And that's one of the things that I will say is something you might have to do as well. And make it something that's a more long-term plan, right? So don't just say, I want to leave and I want to do it in the next 6 months. But then the financial side of things is just not looking like it's going to be possible. Give yourself time, plan it out, and have that be like a 5-year, 3 years, 5 years, depending on how much you would need to supplement on the savings that you can do on your 9 to 5. And what I want to do is have a series. I want to do a series on YouTube where I will tackle the different challenges that have been listed and discuss more in-depth ways and things that you could potentially do to move yourself forward to achieving your goal or your dream of immigrating to Canada. And then again, for finding a job, as I said, LinkedIn, Indeed, those are the two platforms that I personally recommend because my husband and I have both used them extensively, and they've been working for us since we moved to Canada. If somebody else knows of any other platforms that they'd like to share with people, please do comment the other platforms that you might be aware of for people to job search on. Do that. And then I'd also say if you could find maybe a recruiting specialist or a recruiting consultant in your industry that could potentially help you look for jobs, go for it. I don't have any recruiting agencies or consultants or specialists that I used, so I don't have anyone to recommend at this point. If I do come across someone that I think, this is a good resource that could help you, I'll definitely share that person. But for now, the same way that immigration consultants exist and they can help you in the process, there's recruiting consultants or specialists or agencies that you could potentially work with to help yourself find a job. And then the one thing that I've mentioned throughout this video, join the BooCG fam. There's a number of people in there who are also at various stages of the process, and that the information that already exists in there could help you answer questions. They could help you answer some questions about things that you want to know, and it's a space that you could pose questions to or provide resources if there's something that you found that has helped. Okay, so now let me go back. I think I want to leave this on. Maybe let me just stop sharing my screen because I've gone through everything, and then I come back, stop sharing screen. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to go to the comments, and then I just want to see where I left off. Oh, I still have Tammy's comment up there. Makosazana says, the fear of the unknown is motivated by the fact that I have a decent job and I am worried that I might not get something similar. The motivation to move stems from what is happening in SA. Now, I totally get that. And I would say it's one of the things that I thought of as well. I thought of to a certain extent that you're moving, you're comfortable. We were living a pretty, okay life. It was pretty decent and we loved it. And it was like, what if we move and then, I don't know, like things have changed so drastically. You're like, maybe staying in SA would have been a bit better. But as you're saying, the motivation to move for you is stemming from what is happening in South Africa. And those are the things that I'm like, weigh your options. You have a decent job that you enjoy, but the situation and the environment that you're finding yourself in is not one that you particularly are happy with. Are you willing to trade certain things? And it might not even be a trade at the end of the day. You might still find a decent job that you enjoy. And the fact that the unemployment rate in Canada is so low. The last time I checked in Ontario, it was, what was it? 6.7%, I think. It was around there. The last time I looked, in this year, it was around 6-point-something% unemployment rate. So chances of you being able to find something decent, they're still quite high.
And factor in the fact that we are in a pandemic, a lot of companies have closed down, but we're still at 6%.
And that is such a good point. So Tammy is saying, factor in the fact that we're also in a pandemic. We're in a pandemic. There's a lot of companies that have closed down, even here in Canada, in Ontario, but the unemployment rate is still at 6-point-something%, which speaks a lot to the opportunities that are available in the country. Joshua, conversational English it is then. Yep, conversational English, definitely, especially when you're doing the speaking test. Okay, and then Tabelo says, hi, Busi, I'm a 22-year-old with honors degree enrolling for my master's. My question is, do I need to have a work experience in my field of work, or it can be in another field? It can be in another field. Your work experience can be in another field. They would look at your degrees, all of your degrees, even after you've completed your master's. That gives you points. The fact that you would have a master's or you have a post-grad qualification, that gives you extra points, and your work experience can be in another field. When you're going through the NOC code, what they call NOC, what does NOC stand for? Oh, I can't remember what NOC code stands for, but that's basically where they'll tell you the category that you fall in. You're in A, B, I think. I can't remember the other categories, but your work experience is what you would use to look at what NOC code you fall on, and that is going to help you guide. It's going to help guide you in the process in general. And Makosazana says, security for my kids is my biggest concern. Yep, that was definitely one of the bigger concerns for us, was really, really one of the biggest things that worried us and made us want to move. Pindile says, in terms of references, if a company has closed down or you can't locate your line manager from 10 years ago, should one include that work experience on the CV? So when you are providing work references, they're not necessarily looking for work references for every single company that you've worked for. You will go through an interview process, and when they say, okay, we think we want to go forward with you, but we want to just check that, everything checks out and you haven't lied about work experience or whatever, they typically look, not I won't say look, you decide, right? Number one, you're going to decide what references you're giving them. But I would say the last few, the most recent work experiences, I would say would be the best to provide, because those managers would be the ones that maybe have a bit more fresh maybe memory of you, but you know what relationships you have, right? Even with people that you might have worked for or with much longer or a further time ago. So definitely, if you have 10 years experience from a company where you don't even know anyone from there, you could add that. You just don't have to give that as a reference, but they'll tell you maybe we need 2 references or we need 3 references. So you will have to, decide how you're working that out, but include that experience. I think that's very valuable experience that speaks to your tenure, and I think it adds, especially if it's related to whatever job you would be applying for. It definitely adds. So Neil says police clearance is valid for 6 months. There you go. It's valid for 6 months now. I remember when we were going through the process a couple of years ago, it was only 3 months. So it's pretty awesome that they've added it. Feel the Dream says, a bit late today, but I'm so happy to be here. I'm happy to have you as well. Thank you for joining. Then Innocentia says, how did you guys as a family deal with the culture shock if you experienced it? So honestly, I was talking to my husband about this yesterday. I was making a video for another channel that asked to collaborate. And one of the things that they asked I speak about was culture shock. And that term of culture shock, I have a bit of I'd say a difficulty in saying, okay, what exactly do I call a culture shock? There's definitely things that have surprised us. There's things that are different in the way that things are done, but some things are not culture related. It might be maybe the way that you drive when you're on the road, things that are allowed that are not allowed in South Africa. But we have not had any major things from a cultural perspective specifically that I can highlight and say, this is super different, and it's a cultural thing. But there's been definitely different things here and there that I've spoken about on the channel as well on different videos. But it's been very good. The transition to the new country was a very good one for us and the boys. And yeah, there aren't really major things that I could say have been big shockers that we weren't able to handle or deal with. Or
maybe in addition, I think if you stay in a city like Durban, Johannesburg, Cape Town, or it's pretty much similar.
Yeah, if you've stayed, or what Tammy's saying is, if you stayed in Durban, you've stayed in Cape Town, Johannesburg, like city type of thing, like comparing where we currently are, we're in the Greater Toronto area in Ontario, in the province of Ontario. It's quite similar, like really, it's honestly similar, and it's very diverse. I think that's another thing. Maybe if we were in an area that mostly just had Canadians, maybe that's where we would experience a lot more other things that are just like, whoa, what's going on right now? But where we are is very diverse, similar to how it is when you're in Johannesburg, in the city areas. There's a lot of people from different parts of the world, and things are just done very differently. So maybe that might be also another difference in the experience that we were having. So John says, do you pay any bills back home, like mortgages, or so you suggest getting rid of them? Personally, our personal decision was to sell. We didn't keep any houses in South Africa. And one of the biggest reason that we decided to sell all our properties was when we were in South Africa, there was a point where we were renting out one of our houses and we had issues. We had a lot of issues with the tenant that we had. And we just thought it's going to be a lot more of a headache if we have to manage this place while we're outside of the country. Now, of course, you can hire either agencies maybe to do that maintenance of your property for you, but that's a personal decision. I think that's a decision you would have to make, weighing what the kinds of headaches that you're willing to live with at the end of the day, because the place would still be yours, even if you hire someone else to help you maintain it. But you have to decide, does it make sense to keep a place? Does it make sense to just sell? We did not keep anything in South Africa that we have to maintain or pay or anything. So we chose to not go down that path of I just feel like it would have been a much bigger headache for us to keep mortgages and things like that. Okay, Aljanika says, hi, Busi. My husband is the main applicant. Do both of us need to go for IELTS test? He's doing his test this week. Yes, you both have to write IELTS. You'll both have to provide police clearance certificates. You'll both have to get your credentials assessed. If it's you both have credentials that can be assessed by an organization like WES. We also had the same thing. One of us was the main applicant, and then we both had to do the same things. So yes, you will both have to take the IELTS test. Joshua says, read that for 2 people, around 250K would suffice, and I agree with the multiple streams of income. You definitely need more. Like, unless you are someone who makes a truckload in your 9 to 5, then that's okay. And even if you're not someone who makes a truckload, people just have different responsibilities and things they have to do every month with their own salary. So it depends. You know your situation a lot better, and you know that if you can't save a lot or anything at all at the end of the month, you have to find other things that are going to bring you more income to be able to raise the amount. And yeah, I think I strongly encourage that you check the website for the amount, the proof of funds that the government requires, whether you're going as an individual, 2 people, a family of 4, and so on and so forth, because you will actually need that amount. You will need that amount. And one of the things I also want to highlight, honestly, is the fact that when it comes to finding a place to live, that was one of the more difficult things for us. Finding a place to live when you still have to rent a place and you don't have any work. If you're coming without a job, be prepared that you might have to pay for the full year's rent in advance. Be prepared that you might have to do that. We had to do that when we first came the first year and we didn't have jobs. We recently met another family that moved from South Africa. They came, I think, in around May. They also had to pay for the full year's rent in advance. And when you look at that amount, that proof of funds that the government will say, come with this amount and, this is going to help you live in Canada. That amount, sometimes, depending on the place that you get, if you're an individual, you might not get a place that costs as much as someone who has a family of 4, as an example. But that amount literally can go above that proof of funds requirement, just having to pay for your rent for the whole year in advance. So that's one of the biggest things I would say, be prepared for. If you're coming without a job, be prepared that you might get landlords that just want you to pay for the amount upfront. Personally, I feel like the government should be doing better on that front to support new immigrants. If they're allowing people to come into the country and they have an amount where they say, have these funds and you will be okay. But then when you get here, landlords are just doing their own thing and they're asking for ridiculous things. Because I honestly think it's ridiculous to expect someone to just give you everything in upfront for the whole year when they could find a job in 3 months, and you will still have that money right on you to pay for that place for a certain period of time. But that's just one of the things I want to point out on there. Phil says, is your husband Congolese? My husband is South African. He is South African from Escott in KZN. Yeah. the texture of his hair, though, I think he has family, that he's not aware of, that are not quite South African. He has such a nice texture, like with his hair. I don't know. Maybe that's what you're also seeing, and why you're asking. He's smiling right now. Because I'm always like teasing him with his hair. I'm like, well, you've got family somewhere that you are not 100% aware of. Martin says, is there a Canadian CV evaluation site? Because I'm told that CVs are viewed by computers before going to HR personnel. So yes, recruiters use that to sift through CVs. So they're looking for particular keywords, because you can imagine if they have a role and then say 500 people apply for that role, how many people would you need to go through all 500 CVs if they had to be looking at the resumes with their eyes themselves? So they use software. And one of the things that you could use, I have a video titled, I think it's the job searching video, Martin. There's a job searching abroad video that I have on there. And I mentioned a tool called, what's that tool again? JobScan. It's called JobScan. So you can look for JobScan. I think it's .ca, jobscan.ca or jobscan.com. On that video, though, I have it linked in there, so you can be able to find it on there. And what you do with that tool, you will copy the description of a job that has been posted. It's on LinkedIn, Indeed, whatever platform. Copy that job description, paste it in the right position on the tool, and then you will take your resume, copy what's on your resume, paste it onto that tool, and it's going to give you a percentage of how you're ranking with the stuff that the company has shared that they want. So it will give you an example, say, of the number of times the company has mentioned a particular skill, that the fact that maybe this company mentions this thing 4 times means it might be something that's very important to them, but you've only mentioned it once, or maybe you don't have it at all in your resume. So it helps you customize your resume for every single job application. And this is the part where I say job searching is a job in itself, because if you're just putting in resumes to every single job that you're seeing, but you're not tailoring it to meet or fit what that company uses in terms of the jargon, because I work in the IT industry, and different companies, there's similar terms that companies will use, but there's also terms that will be nuanced to a particular company, but it means the exact same thing. But you would have to be a human reading that thing to say, oh, if they're saying they want someone who does XYZ, I do that, but I've just written it in a different way on my resume. You can just make those tweaks here and there. So that website is not necessarily just reviewing Canadian resumes. It really just helps you optimize your resume for a particular job. And I would totally recommend it.
And just maybe mention the resume versus CV, because South Africa is more CVs, not necessarily resumes.
Oh yeah, okay. So Tammy's saying I should just mention the resume versus CV, where there's a difference, right, in what a resume is and what a curriculum vitae is, the CV, and what is used in Canada is the resume. So a CV and I'm pretty sure some people refer to their resumes as CV, because that's just how we kind of tend to speak, I think, in South Africa. It's a CV, it's a CV. So if you are fresh out of a university, for example, you don't have a lot of work experience, or you don't have work experience at all, you have a CV. You would have a CV that details your personal information, and then will also contain the education that you have. I've studied this, maybe you volunteered somewhere, as much as you can put in there, just to showcase the kind of person you are. These are the clubs I was involved in. Maybe this is the average I received for XYZ. That would be your CV. And then when you're speaking about a resume, that's where you're going to be detailing your jobs. Like, you'll have your jobs being the main thing, other than what you studied, where you studied, and all of that. So it's just a difference in term. But yeah, I know in South Africa, you can be talking about a resume and call it a CV, and it's
The resume, they want to see your job related experience.
Yeah. Resume is definitely, what have you accomplished from a job perspective? What's your job experience, and what have you done on the job front? Not just what did you study. Fuel the Dream says, would you recommend that we have the funds available first before even trying to get into the pool? I would, honestly, because you can get into the pool. Excuse me. I know right now they've been focusing a lot on the Canadian experience class, which targets people who are already in Canada or have Canadian work experience in terms of the draws that they've been running. And that is because of the coronavirus, right? The pandemic that we're in. But as soon as things open up, and I know the government is planning to open up borders for international travelers on the 7th of September, who knows when they might just make the first draw of the year for something like the federal skilled workers, right? You want to know that when you are receiving your invitation to apply, because you also get a time frame that if you receive your invitation to apply, you have to submit your application within X amount of time, and your proof of funds would be something that you have to submit with your application. So I honestly would suggest that it should be something that you already have sorted out, because they also want to see the funds available in your account, whatever accounts you would be submitting, for a period of 6 months at least. And if you don't have it available in your account, that's still okay. If you don't have the amount available in your account, bank statements showing it there for the past 6 months, they would just need you to submit something that supports and states, where did you find these funds? Where did these funds come from? Because they're trying to avoid having people take maybe a loan or something from their bank and then submit that as proof of funds. But come time for them to leave, they actually don't have the money because they have to pay back that bank. And then now you're coming to Canada and it's a bit of a struggle. And it's also one of the things where you can't do that, because when you arrive, they may say, show us, where this money is. Let's log into your bank accounts, or let's see that you actually have this money, because it's money that you're going to be using to settle in the country. So it's important that you actually do have it. So I would strongly suggest that you have that figured out as you apply. Anita says, if you find a job, do you then skip the proof of funds process? What if my partner? What did you say?
No, I'm just saying yes.
Oh. What if my partner gets the job and I don't? Does it set me back or does it help? Yeah, if you have a job already, just like different rules apply. And even from a looking for a house perspective, if you have a job already, you're not going to struggle as much as someone who doesn't have the job. So the proof of funds portion, you won't need to provide proof of funds, because they know you will have a job that's going to help you, live month to month. And that's the purpose of the proof of funds. It's not something they're trying to put in there just to make people's lives more difficult. But if you're coming with zero money, how are you going to pay for a place to stay? How are you going to pay for food? Just basic things. That's what that money is meant to be for. And it's supposed to help take care of you for a couple of months while you're looking for that job. So if you're already coming with a job, then proof of funds it's not a factor anymore. And that's why I say, as you are working and getting those multiple streams of income going, you can be looking for a job. And if you manage to find a job before you get to put together that proof of funds amount, then whatever money you will have made is something that's just going to help you make your transition and immigration much more easier, So definitely look for a job. If you can find a job, I think that is number one. Everyone wants to move with that comfort of knowing that they will have a job, right? But you can also move without one. And you would have to have the proof of funds if you are going to move without the job. So John says, from what I've been looking at, that seems to be the hack around the proof of funds. Yeah, I'd say the quicker way, honestly. If you can find a job, it's probably going to be much faster for you to be able to move than someone who still has to save and, generate more income over the 9 to 5 for like 5 years, as an example. But if you are looking for that job and you're not finding the job, don't stop trying to put the proof of funds together, right? So do both at the same time. Look for the job, and then try to get yourself in a position where you have these proof of funds to be able to move at the same time. Maposa said NOC stands for National Occupation Category. Thank you for that. Okay. Zama is asking, is it advisable to move as a single mother with a 2-year-old? I have spoken to a lady. I don't think she has moved yet. At the time I was speaking to her, she had just received her invitation to apply for permanent residency, right? And she was a single mom. She had a son. And it's one of the things that I say, at the end of the day, it's going to be your decision to make, Zama. You have to weigh the pros and cons of moving with your child by yourself. Looking at daycares, how much of the daycare is going to cost? What's your plan around that? Because at home, when you're in South Africa, I'll speak from my experience with my family. We had the grandparents of my kids. They were quite active in helping us with the boys, right? Even on weekends, sometimes if we had other things maybe that we wanted to do, they were around. They wanted to, see their grandkids, and that was a support system to help with the child. But if it's just going to be you and the child, when you go to work, you will have to put the child in daycare. And it's possible, it's definitely doable, because they have before school care and after school care. And what that means is if the daycare, say, opens at 7 or 8, and daycares generally open much earlier than the schools, but the before school care would allow you to drop your child off much earlier than the normal time, which gives you enough time to get to your work if you have to go to work. And then after school, because schools here also, for people who might not know, schools here start so much later, like it's almost at 9 a.m. in the morning. And when you have to go and start work at 9 a.m., it just doesn't make sense for you to go drop your child off at 9. So you would generally put them in before school care if there's no one who's going to care for them before, while you have to go to work, and then take them to school. And that would be from 6 a.m., right? Time, if I remember correctly. It's from 6 a.m., and then your child will go to class after that. And then after school care, when the day ends, after school care takes care of them up until 6. A lot of them close at around 6. So it gives you time to be able to go fetch your child afterwards. But I do think from a support system perspective, there will be a lot of changes. And while you're still new, it's going to be a bit of a while, before you meet people. You'll definitely meet people going to the park, and because there's a lot of families that take their kids to parks. That's a very big thing here around the residential areas. There will always be a park that is fully kitted for kids to play, that you could just go hang out at and get to meet other people and start building that community of people that you could over time maybe learn to lean on, because you're not going to go and just trust strangers, especially with your child. But over time you can build those friendships and those relationships where you have that community of support around you. But I think over and above everything, it's going to be a decision that you have to make. Sit and just weigh all of your options and see if it makes sense. I don't see why you shouldn't do it or couldn't do it. Yeah, it's just, I think, going to be a personal thing that you do. Joshua, I think the fenceless living would be the worst. Why? It took a while for me to get used to it. I must say, from just like feeling like I'm safe, like actually feeling like I'm safe, it took a while to get used to not having a fence, because I'm like, someone can just go, like they can just get to your door without having to go through anything, nothing, zero, get to your door, get to your windows. But you get used to it over time. And for me, that has been one of the best things. Like, just some people, when they do put fences up, they have those little picket fences that really you could just climb over with your foot. But yeah, I think I like that a lot more. Okay, I think I'm going to take questions for around 5 minutes more, and then we're going to call it a day. Quentin says, hi, Busi, what's the rules on pet dogs? So that depends. If you're asking in terms of where you would maybe live, it depends on the landlord. Does the person want dogs in their house? Yes or no? If they are okay with having pets, you can have one. There's a family that recently moved that we met. They moved from South Africa, and they came with their dog. So they moved with their dog, and where they're living, they will state that they have a pet. So they're obviously looking for a place where they can have a pet in the house. So if you have a pet that you want to move with, there's a lot of people that want to move. So Tobile says, hi, Busi. I have been looking for a job and some recruiting specialists have reached out to me. Do you have any tips to look out for scams? So I literally had a marathon of batch recording videos yesterday, and that's one of the things, but I was speaking more about immigration scams on that video. But one of the biggest tips that I will give on this is if something looks too good to be true, most likely it is. And there's a website. I'll share the link on the this live. I'll add it on that immigration scams video that I'm going to release in the next coming. I don't know when exactly I'm going to release it, but the Canadian government also details ways of seeing whether something is a scam or not. And if they're making promises to you that just are like, how can you maybe guarantee X, Y, Z? They'll say maybe pay X amount of money and then we guarantee this. That is most likely a scam. So number one, don't go and pay anyone any large sums of money to find you or get you a job. How the recruiting places usually work, from what I've heard, they will have an agreement with whoever is looking for a person, right? And then you don't have to pay anything for them to place you in a job. It might be that maybe they say, okay, for the first X amount of whatever you'd be getting as a salary, maybe there's an amount that would go to them, but upfront, you should not have to pay anything. I think if they're asking you to pay them money to get a job before they've even done anything, that would be one of the biggest the biggest flashes, like the biggest red flags that I would say you should look out for. So don't pay anyone money unnecessarily for things that they're promising that have not been delivered yet. And then also check the link that I'm going to add, because the government keeps that link up to date with fresh scams that they come across. And they also have a way for you to report. So if you come across an immigration scam, even if it's related to finding jobs in Canada, that's still related to immigrating. Whether it's on a website or it's an email that you've received, you can report so that they can update their database to help more people not fall for the same scams. So Martin says, thanks for the advice. Is it also a feasible way to communicate with the hiring manager through email or via telephony? So you mean when you're looking for a job, is there a way you can communicate with the hiring managers? That the only way that I would know if you're looking for work at a particular company and you see a job and you're aware who the hiring manager is, by some chance you have visibility into that, it's LinkedIn InMail. The InMail's in LinkedIn. So if it's not someone that you know personally or someone who is in a company where you know someone in that company that might be able to connect you in some way or form, LinkedIn InMails are the best way to reach out to a hiring manager directly. Why can't you use your pension fund? They want to see amounts that are available. So if you would have that pension fund already available to you as liquid cash, like money that you could use right now if you had to use it, then sure, that's money that you can use. But if you're saying, this is money I am going to receive at this time, then you're going to have trouble with that, because they want it to be money that's readily available for you, readily available to you. So that's why pension funds and just the pension monies that come only if something happens are not things that they generally want to accept. Okay. How much does it cost to get the qualification verified and to do the English test? Check the websites. I've shared a number of videos. The last video that I shared, I go through costs for an individual going through the express entry process. I share the costs, and in that the video's description, I have a link for WES and their price. Top of my head, if I remember correctly, for WES, it was $220 excluding tax. So you'll add HST, which is 13%, right? But I really strongly just encourage you to go to wes.org or go find the last video that I uploaded before this live. That video is going to have links in the description, and the English test as well. I added a link that shows a table of the fees. Where's from the top of my head again? I mean, the English test at the top of from the top of my head was 4,700 and something. And I remember because I recently just looked at the amounts. I don't remember the specific amounts, but definitely just go check. Go and check on the website. Ooh, I've actually reached an hour. Oh my goodness. Let me see. Kutsu says, my wife is the main applicant. I will be immigrating with her. Can I also have my own express profile, as there are certain provincial nomination programs which I want to apply for individually? I'm honestly not sure. I don't know. I do not know the answer to this. Why would you want to? Maybe you can. So with the ones that you want to apply for individually, would that mean if you get through on that, you would not be moving with your wife and you would move by yourself? Honestly, I don't know how to answer this one, Kuzo. I think read the requirements on the canada.ca website for each of the programs, and maybe ask, even in the search of their question, pose this question to see if maybe it's something they've answered in their frequently asked questions, because it might be something other people have also wondered, that if my partner is the main applicant, can I also go and start another application by myself and see how that goes? I do not know how to answer this question, honestly. Okay, so Makosazana says, which is the best place to immigrate to? I heard Ontario and Quebec, French dominated, are full of immigrants. Yeah, I think a lot of immigrants, from what I've and this is where the provincial nomination programs were birthed, or how they were birthed, from my understanding. A lot of immigrants tend to gravitate towards Ontario, British Columbia. And I don't know if that's because those are the places that are, I'd say, advertised more, because how many people don't know that Toronto exists? And you'll look, where's Toronto? Maybe it's in Ontario. You know of Vancouver because it's like, widely out there. And that's where a lot of immigrants were gravitating towards. And the government started the provincial nomination programs to try and get people into other parts of Canada that for some reason immigrants were just maybe not aware of. Because I think that's another big one. If you're not really aware of a place, how would I say I want to immigrate to Saskatchewan if I've never even heard such a place exists? So that's where they started the PNP program, just to say, okay, if you come specifically to this place, maybe this is what they're looking for. And they look at the skills that the companies in the place require, right, that they're missing. And then, so from a best place to immigrate to, I've only experienced Ontario, honestly. So my personal opinion on that is going to be very biased, because I love living here. I'm open to visiting other places. I might even be open to moving to another place. Not that I want to move, honestly, at this point. I'm tired of just moving around. But yeah, I don't know. I can't say this is the best place to move, because I've only ever lived in Ontario, and I'd be basing whatever I say on my experience in Ontario and in things that I've just heard about other places. But I think it's just worth, look at different places, look at the weather, look at different aspects of different provinces. What happens in this province that doesn't happen in other provinces, and then make a decision from there. If you don't like a province, you can always move. You are not bound to any place permanently if we don't want to be permanently bound there. Brangy says, glad I caught the live. I'm glad you caught the live as well. We saw two questions, or else I'm going to be here like all afternoon. Two more questions, and then I'm really going to go now. Lisa says, how much must I have exactly to immigrate? So from a process perspective, the last video that I shared, I was going through the express entry the fees for the express entry and how much would be required, even from a proof of funds perspective. And the proof of funds are funds that you would be able to use once you've moved to Canada, right? So that can give you a rough estimate of how much one individual would need. And then if you want to come with a partner or you're coming with your family, I added links in the description that you can click on and you'll be able to see, okay, how much do I add if it's me and a partner, or me, a partner, and 2 kids? Yeah, but from an individual perspective, top of my head again, from the last video that I uploaded, for an individual, it was coming up to around 190K, including the proof of funds. So the proof of funds that you would use to settle in the country, right? And then going through the process was just above 30,000 in rands, South African rands. And I understand that people are in different parts of the world, so please do convert amounts the same way when you go to the website. Some of them are going to give you prices in Canadian dollars, so you would just have to you'd have to convert to whatever your currency is. I'm trying to speak, I'm trying to read, I'm trying to think at the same time, and it's just not working out for me to speak. Okay. So Kanyisa says, please, my people, do check out the British Columbia Tech Program for any people working in the IT sector. There you go. You know, and it's one of the things that I'm always saying. I personally will not be aware of every single program that exists. I won't know the process for every program. I won't know the costs that are associated. That website, canada.ca, you're going to be able to see different programs on there and find programs that are like the most perfect fit for you. And you'll be able to see what the requirements for those programs are, and you'll be able to take things from there. So yes, if you're in IT, please check out the program that Kanyiso has mentioned, and then go on the canada.ca website. Make that website your best buddy, and do have a look out for the series that I mentioned that I'm going to be doing, tailored at going in on all of these points that we raised in terms of the challenges that are being faced and possible things that you could do from a proof of funds perspective. So I'll also share how we went about it, like what we did from a business perspective. And that might be something that sparks something in you, depending on whatever skills or experience or things that you can share and be able to make money from, right? And yeah, I think that series, number 1, watch out for that. And if you're not yet part of the BooCG fam, the link is in the description of this video and probably all of my other videos. I tried adding it to even videos before I started the BooCG fam. So please do join the family and find a community of people that are trying to go through the process, people who are aware of different programs that my husband and I might not have a lot of information on. And then look out for the series that I'm going to start to help everyone just get to a point where they're achieving this goal or dream of immigrating to Canada. And even if I help you figure out that maybe immigrating to Canada is just not what I'm trying to do, like I thought I wanted it, but I actually don't, that's also fine, right? You will have the opportunity to pour your energy into something else that you actually do want to do. So have a look out for that, and I will see you on the next video. I've had so much fun. I always enjoy chatting to you guys. Thank you so much for interacting with me. Thank you for all the comments, and yeah, let's continue the conversation, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.
Thank you for watching.